The finest in underground television.
Frost at Midnight by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. The poet, a Christian mystic and philosopher, refers to the folk belief that if one sees a film of blue flame on a fire, it portends the coming visit of a stranger. The frost performs its secret ministries, unhelped by any wind. The owlet's cry came loud, and hark again, loud as before. The inmates of my cottage all at rest have left me to that solitude which suits abstruser musings, save that at my side my cradled infant slumbers peacefully. 'Tis calm, so calm indeed that it disturbs and vexes meditation with its strange and extreme silentness. Sea, hill, and wood, this populous village, sea and hill and wood, with all the numberless goings-on of life, inaudible as dreams. The thin blue flame lies on my low-burnt fire and quivers not. Only that film which fluttered on the grate still flutters there, the sole unquiet thing. Methinks its motion in this hush of nature gives it dim sympathies with me who live, making it a companionable form, whose puny flaps and freaks the idling spirit of its own moods interprets everywhere, echo or mirror seeking of itself, and makes a toy of thought. But oh, how oft at school with most believing mind presageful have I gazed upon the bars to watch that fluttering stranger, and as oft with unclosed lids already had I dreamt of my sweet birthplace and the old church tower, whose bells, the poor man's only music, rang from morn till evening all the hot, fair day, so sweetly that they stirred and haunted me with a wild pleasure, falling on mine ears most like articulate sounds of things to come. And so I brooded all the following morn, awed by the stern preceptor's face, mine eye fixed with mock study on my swimming book, save that the door half opened, and I snatched a hasty glance, for still I hoped to see the stranger's face, townsman or aunt or sister more beloved, my playmate when we both were clothed alike. Dear babe that sleepest cradled by my side, whose gentle breathings, heard in this deep calm, fill up the interspersed vacancies and momentary pauses of the thought. My babe, so beautiful, it thrills my heart with tender gladness thus to look at thee, and think that thou shalt learn far other lore, and in far other scenes, where I was reared in the great city, pent mid cloisters dim, and saw naught lovely but the sky and stars. But thou, my babe, shalt wander like a breeze by lakes and sandy shores, beneath the crags of ancient mountains, and beneath the clouds, which echo in their bulk both lakes and seas and mountain crags. So shalt thou see and hear the lovely shapes and forms intelligible of that eternal language which thy God utters, who from eternity doth teach himself in all, and all things in himself. Great universal teacher, he shall mold thy spirit, and by giving make it ask. Therefore all seasons shall be sweet to thee, whether the summer clothe the general earth with greenness, or the redbreast sit and sing betwixt the tufts of snow upon the bare branch of mossy apple tree, while the nigh thatch smokes in the sun thaw. Whether the eavesdrops fall, heard only in the trances of the blast, or if the secret ministry of frost shall hang them up in silent icicles, quietly shining to the quiet moon.
Here before you is an opportunity to plumb the depths of the mysteries that confound and intrigue us. A chance to ask the big questions. Dr. Hal is not concerned with questions of trivial matters or of facts that are easily gathered elsewhere. Dr. Hal seeks the questions that transcend fact. He stands before you, ready to take questions that used to be brought to wise and aged sages on distant mountaintops. These questions can now be asked from the comfort of your living room. No Sherpas required. Simply direct your favorite web browser to our new and simple-to-use website, AskDrHalShow.com, or click the Ask Dr. Hal button below our live Twitch broadcast. You will be spirited away to the magical Co-Fee portal, where all you need do is submit your burning question in the handy message field, and assign a monetary value you wish to place upon it. Our stage ghost will then convey your message live to Dr. Hal, and he will answer in the manner that only Dr. Hal can. Don't worry, we never sell, share, or solicit using your provided email address. PayPal will ensure that your valuable love offering goes directly to Dr. Hal. Links to submit questions and more can be found at our website, AskDrHalShow.com. Do not let this opportunity to consult a modern-day oracle, a seer for seers, a man steeped in the arts, sciences, and esoteric studies, pass you by. We present to you, through the very miracle of the internet itself, the one and only Dr. Hal Robins, now making house calls.
I was a little worried there. My keyboard, or the thing that I used to switch scenes, all of a sudden wasn't working, and I was going to have to use mouses.
Oh dear.
You never know what might be sprung on you by the internet archons.
This is very true, but here we are against all odds, appearing live from the internet.
Does it
Welcome,
happen?
everybody.
It's good to be back.
Good evening, Dr. Hal and Professor Gofflin. Good to see everyone again.
Good evening.
We're back.
Yes, wonderful.
This
Yes.
is show number 33.
The golden mean,
Wow.
Indeed.
Wow. We're coming into our fourth
Remember,
year of
sacred to the Masonic order.
So this, yeah, it's we keep on ticking. So here we go. It's another show. We've got questions already in the queue.
That's good.
Yes,
You
indeed.
must have them.
I want to
Absolutely.
mention Dr. Billy. Thank you so
Yes.
much for the Empire Jazz Orchestra music,
Thank
because
you, Dr. Billy.
if the audience isn't aware, music is one of those things. If you're doing this kind of presentation stuff, music is just golden. Having music that you can use, and good music, stuff that doesn't sound
It's not creaky program music, although that has its own charms at certain times.
right, but some of it, yeah, it sounds like a monkey on an organ grinder. So
Yeah.
but oh my God,
Yes.
goodness, the Empire Jazz Orchestra stuff is just
Oh, and a
Oh,
perfect
so
compliment to
good.
the Harryhausen short. It worked amazingly well.
it just laid on that animation like it was composed at the same time that the animation was being done. It was really cool.
Although we invite our audience to look up the short and hear the original narration in music, then they can decide whether they like our version as well, or perhaps even better.
Yes,
Well worth it.
absolutely. Yes. This was, of course, courtesy of the Pralinger Archive. This is a public domain short, one of Harryhausen's first solo works, actually, when he was a young man. And he had the help of his mother and father on this short as well, which was kind of cute and interesting.
Yes, the animator is listed as Jerome Ray, which is, of course, Harryhausen himself. Fred Blasif and Martha Reski are the premarital names of his two parents.
Did
And
I?
his father helped him all the way up through Jason and the Argonauts, I believe.
Yes, yes, absolutely. He was a carpenter. Yeah.
So his mom did the costumes on the puppets.
Yes.
I guess?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But they
Very
have
cool.
to be specially treated because they can't jiggle during a scene while the puppets are being manipulated. So they also have to be starched and specially prepared so that they themselves can receive some animation.
Mm-hmm.
So, awesome. And the level of detail that it just blows me away. The oh my goodness.
Well, we
Mm-hmm.
hope people like this version of the very familiar story.
You'll see more.
Mm-hmm.
It's public domain. It's ours.
You can't stop us.
Can't.
Yeah, ain't we the public also?
That's true. We as the public.
Yeah. It's ours now. Screw you, Mickey. Yeah, Mickey's ours now.
Well,
Steamboat
sort
Willie,
of.
I
Steamboat
can
Willie
we
is
show that
ours.
one? Would
Yeah.
we want to show that one?
Oh,
Anyway.
Well,
you
this is,
know.
you
I think it's
perhaps
overrated.
with our true, but perhaps with our particular flair, it might.
How about the
might.
band concert? Is that one?
Oh, I don't know if that one is in the public domain yet. Actually, I'm not sure. I have to look that up.
Well, future will reveal this and other things. We're always trying to find something of the proper entertainment value here on the show.
Yes, absolutely. And on that note, if anybody that is watching has any leads or contacts for entertainers or people that we might want to feature on the show, please go to the website askdrhalshow.com and get in contact with us.
Oh, yeah, please do. Hey, but do me a favor. Don't use the comments on the website. We're going to have to take a look at that. St. Andrew is in the audience. He's our new webmaster. But our comment section is just getting deluged by spam. So messages
It's
aren't.
going to have to.
It's trying to sell us graveyard plots or something like that.
No, they're trying to sell us, web services and programming and all that kind of stuff.
Cryptocurrency.
Yeah, So they've gotten kind of a hold of our comment section, and it's not worth using.
Holding it for ransom for bitcoins that we must produce from the bit bubblegum machine.
So hopefully Andrew will come in and say, Pressure, you really should never be a webmaster.
No, we'll see about that. This is all speculation, and perhaps our audience isn't that interested in our internal struggles.
I can go for hours.
By the show. Oh, we could all.
Anyway, Professor Gofflin, I'll bring you back a little later, but I'm going to go ahead and jump into questions. I believe you're going to come back later with a question of your own.
Yes, we have a special
Very
question.
good.
So
We have a
I will be
special
back.
question. All right, we'll talk to you all in a little bit.
All right.
I was having trouble with my buttons earlier, so let me make sure this
How
works.
many
Here we go.
times have I heard that before?
There we are. Now my buttons appear to be in order.
Very good. Count your beads. The show is starting.
I have a question here, and I mentioned it before the show because I don't remember reading it on our last show, and it looks like it came in just, I guess, after we had wrapped everything up.
A lag over a question. You see, if by some chance we don't get to your question, we will eventually on a following show. But we try to use everything that we get up in one particular show. That being said, I'm interested in this last show's question.
Well, this is a $6 question, and it is from Reverend Dr. Les. And the question is, how seriously should we take Australian/New Zealand Christmas?
A most interesting question. How seriously should we take Australian/New Zealand Christmas? Well, that is in a subset of how seriously should we take Christmas at all? Can we dissect Christmas and separate its promising elements from the commercial avalanche of greed which it occasions, or the sinister presence of the god of greed, Santa Claus? But it deserves consideration since it is a holiday which, for one reason or another, most people still look forward to, probably generated by childhood associations. It is commonly known, or should be, that below the equator in the Antipodes, their seasons are the opposite of ours, so that our winter is their summer, and they begin in October when there is a sort of twilight of fall, which to them is spring. Still, it's also worth thinking of that the date given for the birthday of the founder of the Christian religion is one arranged by the church centuries later, and the actual birth seems to be more like October, if the person that they think was born then actually corresponds to the biblical Son of Man. That would indicate that they are more on the right track than we are, and that we need to look to our bona fides and straighten up and fly right and stop criticizing those who have made a more superior accommodation. At any rate, we on the Ask Dr. Hal show believe, let a million Christmases or any other holiday bloom. The idea is to have holidays and to relax the choking intensity of our daily lives.
Let's see, Dr. Hal, I have a question here. Dr. Billy, we just mentioned him a few minutes ago in Empire Jazz Orchestra, the conductor of Empire Jazz Orchestra. And his question is, it is a $12 question. Dr. Hal, what sartorial advice would you give to one considering the purchase of a hat?
Well, know your head. Know your measure. Measure your head before you go into the store. The dimensions the hat has in the store will ultimately change to conform to the dimension of your head. This is difficult when it is several sizes too small. Although if it's too loose, it may blow off in a moderate wind and subject you to the embarrassment of chasing it down the street. But a hat has value because the top of the head needs to be protected from the sun. And if your hair is now gone, you need that protection more than ever so as not to suffer the hideous agony of a sunburned top of the head with a peeling scalp. Moreover, in these days of increased solar intensity and diminished ozone protection from the solar wind, having a brim, which is fairly wide on the hat, is also recommended by the show. The MAGA bill cap or whatever may be fashionable, but one doesn't want to get skin cancer, because then the idea the body gets is, cancer, let's try some more somewhere else.
I have a $5 question here from Reverend Shining Path of Least Resistance. Hey, Reverend.
Yes, he's off in the mysterious East, setting up subgenius things in bewildered and sometimes hostile countries.
We don't want to give out too much information, though.
Of course.
It's
but he's one of our subgenius operatives. What does he have for us?
One of us. The ancient Greek map of the known world placed a mysterious land, that of Ultima Thule. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes.
Far to the north beyond the 10 islands. please enlighten us on the old and new theories of what, where, and who concerning Ultima Thule.
Well, of course, I'm not conversant with every theory because there are many. This is like the search for fabled Atlantis, and I prefer to search in the world of fable than to try to tease out from conspiratologists their concept of what did exist or possibly was suppressed. But according to the Greeks and those who formed their legendary, the land of Hyperborea was the land behind the north wind, which is the equivalent of the Ultima Thule, a land beyond the eternal snows, which supposedly had warm and garden features. There, it was said if one could attain its shores, one would be in a land of plenty, where mortality was somewhat curbed and one could experience an unnaturally long life. But the stories also say that Hyperborea was overwhelmed by sheets of ice, which completely moved over it, grinding it down, grinding cities away, and eventually subjecting it to ice of miles in thickness. However, we are in a time of change, and the ice is retreating. What will it uncover? What waits for us in nature's no man's land? The time is coming, perhaps even in our lifetime, when we will find out that and the answer to many other equally unpleasant questions.
Well, Dr. Hal, this is probably a really good time to go to our first monster movie moment.
Yes, it would, especially since I just quoted the ad for The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms that Warner Brothers put out. Merv Griffin's voice can be heard on that. At any rate, we tried to burnish that one up a little bit. Let's check out this monster movie moment.
It's a pip. Here it comes. Oh, but before I go, audience, I should remind you, we have a queue that we put questions into for the good doctor, and then you add a love offering to it. It's traditional. Get those in. We want to hear from you, and we will read all of your questions this evening. So get them in now, get them in early, get them in often. And here's the monster movie moment.
Perhaps not the high point of Dorothy Malone's career in the cinema.
That is an all-star cast.
Yes,
Star-studded.
How did that happen? They were snubbed at the Oscars that year.
Yes, that was heavily stolen from them.
The effects were good.
Even that kid, the one that says, "But Dad, doesn't he have some acting cred?"
Yes, he is a young man. He was in Sigmund and the Sea Monsters, if you remember that
yes.
live action Saturday morning. Sid and Marty
That
Krofft.
was Sid and Marty Krofft.
Yeah, Sid and Marty Krofft.
That's right. I was about to say Rankin Bass, but of course I would have meant Sid and Marty Krofft.
You and I were both on the, because I was trying to get them out of the way so I could get to Sid and Marty
Yes,
Krofft.
the creators of H.R. Puffin stuff, eh?
Indeed.
And then McDonald's came along purportedly and based all of McDonald Land on their characters.
A sad eventuation. Oh well,
And
into
we
every
laugh
life
today.
some rain must fall.
Certainly.
Anything more in the hopper for us?
Yes, indeed. And yes, but audience, please get those in. And we love to see those questions, and the good doctor loves to answer them. So
Yes, absolutely.
keep them coming. All right. Professor Gofflin, we'll be bringing you back a little later. Let me go ahead and get to some questions with Dr. Hal, and we'll talk to you in a few minutes.
Sounds good. Okay.
It's a button to push. There, that one. All right, let me see. We have a question here from Reverend No Exit. Now, how maybe now might be a good time to mention we had a couple of very generous donations that came in to you. From one from Reverend No Exit and one from our good friend Dr. Penny.
That's correct.
And we are looking for some way to officially thank you folks for stepping up and helping out the doctor with some equipment problems he was having. And it was astonishingly generous of you to reach out.
The
and do
Radio
that.
Valencia radio show or internet radio show, which is to 6 o'clock Pacific time on Friday nights. They donated needed equipment, which the station itself was unwilling to replace. And so we're assuming their questions are prepaid, are we not?
Well, this one actually is a $13 offering, Dr. Hal.
Well,
so,
too bad.
But we were going to work out how to thank them in a future episode because it's they
Right.
both.
There are technical considerations the way this works, but we will be doing it.
They both deserve high praise and laudatory statements.
And so they shall have them.
Of great import. So,
ideally.
But his question is, let me open it up here. Rumor has it there will be extra cicadas this year, a double brood. Should we take cover now? Could this be a sign from Bob?
Well, these here cicadas that you refer to are also called 17-year locusts, and they do come out regularly at that time. And their strategy by doing this is to appear in such profusion that even the insect-eating predators can't eat them all. The fact that it occurs during a crucial election season is simply a strange coincidence, which, in our view, should not be racked up with biblical portents and sinister omens for those who take the pulse of things by such turns. To the ancient Romans, anything that happened was an attempt by the gods to signal the future. But we, in our technical fastness, have not given up the idea of these hints. Just the same, the locust appearance, like the inhalations and exhalations of the earth itself, are part of a larger cycle, and self-important humans may not claim to be the reason for everything that happens on our curious and still mysterious planet.
Let's see what we have here in the queue, Dr. Hal.
Of course, they're not locusts. Locusts are the lubber grasshopper, the grasshopper form that comes in an insect swarm. Those things are destructive. Some people even eat the cicadas, and maybe we'll all end up doing that.
They're magnificent animals. They're really cool looking insects. Huge.
And when they molt,
eyes.
they leave their intact exoskeletons behind, which are, according to some, highly collectible.
We have them all over our yard. We get them. We get quite a few of them. They're
well, there you go.
Neat insects. Let me see what we have here in the queue, Dr. Hal. Actually, let me spin the wheel, see if anything else has come in. Yeah, we keep getting questions. Very good. I have a $20 question here from Reverend Xenofact. And it is, we subgenius know Atlantis is real. But why is the normals all have radically different memories of Atlantis? Does this have anything to do with the memory wars?
An interesting question, Reverend Xenofact. The idea is that we all have different memories of Atlantis. This must be a kind of ancestral memory, and I myself have experienced these, as other people may have who have experimented the way I have. But Atlantis, we think of as an island festooned with Greco Roman structures which suffered a volcanic catastrophe and sank. This, I feel, is only part of the story, because the islands of Atlantis were an archipelago. The chief island was called Atlantis, but the nation state was called Poseidonus and incorporated all the island group. The political center described by Plato is the chief island of Atlantis, with its encircling series of walls and so forth that you read about in Plato's account, the chief account of this story. Now, in the past, all sorts of underwater cities and things have been discovered. It's difficult to say where the mythical or semi-mythical Atlantis may have been, except that it was supposed to be outside the gates of Hercules, which kind of knocks out the Minoan civilization destroyed by the volcanic eruption of Thera, because that was in the Mediterranean. Others say that the diaspora of Atlanteans who fled their serial catastrophes ended up being the biblical, what were they called? The enemies of the Israelites, the Philistines, who settled in that area and may be the ancestors of the current Palestinians who are getting such a raw deal. That being said, the Atlanteans themselves did worship the god Poseidon, who was their chief god. In the Greek pantheon, the god Poseidon presides over the sea and over earthquakes, an unfortunate combination for the Atlanteans themselves. And now you've heard more about Atlantis than you usually do through the subgenius special secret hidden lore, which we have partially unlocked for this presentation.
Right. We have a question here.
Wait a moment, pardon me, excuse me, let me break in. How much was that donation?
Oh, that was, let me find it again.
This is a tense moment, ladies and gentlemen.
I believe that was a $20 question.
It is a $20 question.
All right. I thought so. In that case, a recitation is in order, if you will pardon me. I won't make it a long one. Let me do this one. Saint Judas by James Wright. When I went out to kill myself, I caught a pack of hoodlums beating up a man. Running to spare his suffering, I forgot my name, my number, how my day began, how soldiers milled around the garden stone and sang amusing songs, how all that day their javelins measured crowds, how I alone bargained the proper coins and crept away. Banished from heaven, I found this victim beaten, stripped, kneed, and left to cry. Dropping my rope aside, I ran, ignored the uniforms. Then I remembered bread my flesh had eaten, the kiss that ate my heart. Flayed without hope, I held the man for nothing in my arms. Thanks for your question and donation.
Beautiful, Dr. Hal. Well, you know what? I think this is a good time for our audience to think up any more questions that they might have burning in their hearts.
Those are the best kind. We don't need special witty questions. We just need questions that people actually want the answers to. If the questions are considered boring, that's our cross to bear. We must make them interesting. So please don't be inhibited.
And by we, Dr. Hal.
Yes.
That's his job. I just have to read them. All right, but now is a good time, audience, if you want to get those questions in. We will get them read tonight, but we do have a guest on tonight, our good friend Eric Truehart.
That's true.
And we'd very much like to bring that to you all. So here it comes, and audience, get those questions in.
Yes, it's true. The divine gift of speech is often wasted on those who use it or buy.
We need more Eric Truehart.
We do indeed. A funny, wonderful person.
We're happy to spread his message and lucky to have him with us.
Well,
absolutely, yes.
I have a question here, and the question essentially is for me to pass the buck to Reverend Gofflin. It is a $35 question.
Good heaven.
Oh my goodness.
And it is from St. Andrew. And it says, Gofflin has the question. Has to do with food of the gods.
Indeed it does. All right, so here is the question as posed by Reverend St. Andrew. He asks, what is the food of the gods referred to in the subgenius prescriptures, verse 111? In the city of Jehovah one, which the angelic host bringeth, there shall be no night and weariness, and neither shalt thou seek repose, for thou shalt partake of the food of the gods, which relinquisheth sleep. I got stuff to do, dusting, etc. Will it give me a headache, hangover, psychedelic experience, or a combination thereof?
Well, first, I must say, you have to acquire the food of the gods before you worry about its effect on your metabolism. If you're able to do this, my recommendation is always to try a very small amount at first. And you know how profoundly affected you can be affected by match head sized piece of lysergic acid, for example. So if we are going to eat the food of the Olympians or any other group from the celestial pantheon, you must go slowly and carefully. The scientific experimental proceeding is the way to go. And this is true whether or not you are tasting the manna dumped from heaven by an absent-minded Jehovah one, or taking a bite from the golden apple of the Hesperides, if you are fortunate enough to get this without being distracted by the two naked goddesses, and more importantly, the 100-headed, 200-eyed dragon that perpetually haunts the bowl of the tree. But there is another food of the gods, which the erudite Reverend Ivan Stang also had in mind when he transcribed those elements from the prescriptures. The prescriptures, let us remember, were revealed unto J.R. Bob Dobbs after he experimented with an unusual television set he partially constructed from his own design, and fiddling around with the back, received a tremendous shock, which we call the divine immaculation. In this shock, Dobbs heard and later transcribed the mumblings of the senile space god Jehovah one, who, rather like Donald Trump, seemed to lose himself in his musings. Nonetheless, this second food of the gods mentioned and mentioned in the prescriptures is a hypothetical creation of H.G. Wells from his novel, The Food of the Gods. This substance was known as Heracleophobia 4, and it had the property of making anything which ingested it grow to an immense size, many times larger than its intended size. An English wasp, for example, would grow to the size of an eagle. And in an unfortunate incident found in the book, diving beetles make an attack on a plummy naturalist trying to fish things out of the pool. Of course, there was nothing left in the pool after the giant beetles had had their way. The novel is of interest because this food was also fed to humans who became veritable giants, at first used by other countries as a way of elevating their royalty above the standards of the ordinary-sized people. But this too got out of control, and the giants felt unusually curtailed by these little interferers. And by the end of the book, it seems the giants are going to take over everything. An unfortunate thing, since the population of them would overrun the world much faster than the current problem that we are having.
Oh, that was a $35 love offering. Would you?
Yes, it was. And so I will now say this by Dylan Thomas. The force that through the green fuse drives the flower drives my green age, that blasts the roots of trees is my destroyer. And I am dumb to tell the crooked rose my youth is bent by the same wintry fever. The force that drives the waters through the rocks drives my red blood, that dries the mouthing streams turns mine to wax, and I am dumb to mouth unto my veins how from the mountain spring the same mouth sucks. The hand that whirls the water in the pool stirs the quicksand that ropes the blowing wind, hauls my shroud sail, and I am dumb to tell the hanging man how of my clay is made the hangman's lime. The lips of time leach to the fountainhead. Love drips and gathers, and the fallen blood shall calm her sores, and I am dumb to tell the weather's wind how time has ticked a heaven round the stars, and I am dumb to tell the lover's tomb how at my sheet goes the same crooked worm.
Awesome, Hal. I have a $10 question here from a Ko-fi supporter, someone who didn't leave their name. So we encourage you to let us know who you are. But $10.
What means this modesty and not having your name put forward on the show? Surely there's no opprobrium which will be attached to it. We like to think so, at any rate.
How will Jesus know about your kindness if you do not tell us your name? So,
well, perhaps they're worried about the future Senate hearings to come, but that is in the way. The Edward Hinckley Commission has not even come into being yet. This knowing the future is a constant distraction. Let's just have the question.
Indeed. Have been given the dubious opportunity to report for jury duty this week on the one day that my conspiracy job usually requires me to be in the office. Any tips for maximizing the slack potential of being out of the office while being on the hook for a more different obligation?
Well, it sounds to me as if you don't wish to to sacrifice one in favor of the other. You can get an exemption if you request it from the court. If you can explain that your own career and well-being will be impacted. Of course, they're always looking for people who make errors, who make mistakes. It seems to me that the best thing to do would be to go there and get yourself disqualified, as you will be if you express any opinion whatsoever, which the opposing lawyer can decide would make you not fit to sit in the jury box. That being said, if you ever come to trial yourself, you will probably hope that the people there are not the dregs of the jury pool when they decide on your important case.
I have a $15 question from another anonymous requester, but
This anonymity likes me not, but what can we do?
well, and it's more of a request than a question. It is, would you please recite Yeats's Sailing to Byzantium for us?
Well, I believe I can certainly do that for $15. Let's see. I haven't prepared it, but I can probably recall it. Sailing to Byzantium. This is no country for old men, the young in one another's arms, the birds in the trees, those dying generations. At their song, the spawning grounds, the mackerel-crowded seas, fish, flesh, or fowl, commend all summer long whatever is begotten, born, and dies. Caught in that sensuous music, all neglect monuments of unaging intellect. An aged man is but a paltry thing, a tattered coat upon a stick, unless his soul clap hands and sing, and louder sing for every tatter in his mortal dress. Nor is there singing school, but studying monuments of its own magnificence, and therefore I have sailed the seas and come to the holy city of Byzantium. Once out of nature I shall never take my bodily form from any natural thing, but rather such as Grecian goldsmiths make of hammered gold and gold enameling to keep a drowsy emperor awake, or perched upon a golden bough to sing to lords and ladies of Byzantium of what is past or passing or to come.
We have a question here. It is a $6 question from Brocade Lion. And the question is, how do I know if I have a superiority complex?
Well, it's difficult to know these things because one should be wary of diagnosing one's self. These things are accorded to you by other people who may be in a better position to observe them. But one should have a certain amount of introspection and self-questioning, and one does tend to feel to those whose apprehension of things which you consider particularly important is inferior to yours. The main and best thing is probably to assume that you do have a trace of this psychological malady and therefore attempt to head it off before it emerges in a social situation causing problems for yourself. I'm thinking of the former President Thomas Jefferson, who did have such a complex, but managed to control it in all cases in deference and politeness to people who perhaps he felt intellectual contempt for, but would never acknowledge. The Age of Enlightenment, which he was one of the beneficiaries of, and even one of the founders of, was also an age of increased politeness and tolerance for varying opinions, coming as it did on the heels of an intolerant age of religious fanaticism and persecution, an age which we seem to be heading into a second time without the check on it that I have recommended in the individual being applied to society at large.
Well, now is a good time for us to go to our second monster movie moment, which is a bit of a cinematic step up from our previous, but not as star-studded. But here it is, audience. Now is a good time to get those questions in. We're a little more than halfway through the show, so now or never, get them in, and we'll get them answered. But for now, here's our upcoming monster movie moment.
Interesting that in the autopsy sequence during the energy transfer, you can momentarily see a suggestion of the face of the giant bat creature form and then disappear on the face of the guard who was attacked, who is now reforming according to the vampiristic rules. A very subgenius movie, which was all made in the era of handmade special effects without any use of a computer or CGI at all.
Indeed, those beautiful hand-drawn optically printed light effects were just gorgeous. I was stunned at how lovely those still look.
Yes.
And I will point out that a good friend of ours and a fellow sub-genius, champion Jack Codini, is, well, that's not his name on the credits, but trust me, he's in there. So we have a, he's there. There are still...
Wolfgang Wooly Reitherman, one of the 9 old men of Disney, who was a specialist in effects animation. He worked on the Rite of Spring sequence in Disney's Fantasia, and also was among the ones borrowed to produce the effects in Forbidden Planet. Unfortunately, he was more interested in just consuming alcohol and bonhomie than he was in talking about technical matters, but I certainly don't blame him.
Well, you know, there's nothing wrong with, I guess, consumption of alcohol and bonhomie. So
no, the bonhomie makes it better, as opposed to other monster movie stars who I have talked to who became bitter alcoholics, but their names I will not mention.
It takes me a substantial amount of alcohol for any bonhomie to form. So
it's the natural thing. You get drunk and you get happy, as in that wonderful Irish monster movie Grabbers, where you have to be drunk to defeat the monsters.
Oh, such a good movie. We'll be seeing...
Perhaps we'll have an excerpt from it.
Yes, perhaps.
I suspect.
Wonderful.
But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get to the next segment, and we've got more questions coming. So, Professor Gofflin, we'll see you in a few minutes, and here we go.
All right.
Dr. Hal?
Yes.
Hope you're ready. We have questions. Let me see. Let me go to the top of the queue here and see what's come in. We have a question here from Reverend Dr. Les. And it says, thank you for getting back to my question for last year. I made it in a rush and wasn't that bothered that you missed it. Very satisfied by the response. It
We
has
try to get them all eventually, but ideally it should be done during the duration of one show.
actually, it's notable because I think that is actually the first question that we've missed in sitting in the queue. Usually we manage to get them all, so it is it's a rarity, but it does happen. So that's, I guess, how we'll handle it. Is we'll get to that question. Be the first thing we get to. But he has a question here. It has been said that in death, Bob escapes his creditors. Who are his creditors in the first place?
Well, one might suppose that some of them are the archons with whom Bob communicated in his mental state, his walkabout, which occurred at the time I referred to earlier when the prescriptures were awarded unto him. Certainly, it is curious to note that after Bob wrote the prescriptures down, he seems to have promptly forgotten them. Why? Because consideration of such matters might affect slack negatively, and Bob Dobbs was, first and foremost, the world's most slackful man. The true subgenius has to have slack. Remember, that is one of the diagnostics, one of the ways that we determine that a person has subgenius essence and is, in fact, a subgenius. It is a common mistake about the Church of the Subgenius to suppose that we are evangelists and trying to convert others. According to us, all the subgeniuses are already here. It's just some of them may be latent and not know that that is what they are. We only want them. The rest seem to have irredeemably degraded themselves by following the foolish fires, the igni fatui of the conspiracy.
I have a question here from, let me see. Let me roll to the bottom here. Oh, I have one here from Dr. Reverend Big John.
Uh-huh.
It is a $7 question, and it is, monkeys are really funny. Why?
I've gotten that one before. It's strange that it should occur again. There are certain questions which always appear more than once, but this is the first time that one has come a second time. Well, we like to laugh at those to whom we feel superior, as referred to earlier. And the monkey is a miniaturized caricature of an ape, which we are. Yes, humans are apes, but humans are not monkeys, and apes are not monkeys. Apes come from monkeys, but diverge from them during the tertiary. And I will add that anyone who has had any kind of intimate relations with monkeys, who have had them in a house or nearby, know that they are incredibly dangerous and feral creatures. They can give you one hell of a bite, and the only reason they're not more dangerous is their small size. The New World monkeys are the ones with the long tails, the organ grinders monkey, and the Old World monkeys have no tails and are therefore considered more ape-like. But let's lay it on the line here. They aren't apes. And therefore, we like to look down on and condescend to monkeys more than we do to chimpanzees, which we may do at our peril, as anyone will remember who's seen Jordan Peele's movie about the flying saucer that eats people. There are many things in that particular movie which people should pay attention to.
I have a question here from our good friend Frater Young Chawanosaurus.
And I'll be right there, except I forgot to say the name of that movie I referred to.
Oh.
The name of the movie is Nope. All right, let's have this question.
Nope.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yep.
Nope.
Just gave the answer. Yeah.
This is a $13 question from our good friend Freighter Yang Choanosaurus.
Very good.
And it's an interesting question because it's a little pertinent to what's going to happen soon after you give this answer. Do dinosaurs have ghosts?
That would be an interesting one. In The Time Machine, H.G. Wells speculates through the time traveler who has traveled into the far future that if all of humanity has been leaving ghosts behind, by the time one gets into the future, there should be a very high population of ghosts, easy to see. Unfortunately, what the time traveler saw was Morlocks creeping about after dark in their ghostly way. But was the population of ghosts in question? With dinosaurs, their ghosts probably filter through the animals living today. There is something in reincarnation, in that once a pattern is formed by the universe, it tends to manifest in some way. In that same fashion, energy cannot be destroyed, only redirected. But this is done in such a general fashion that one should hardly ever encounter a particular ghost, especially the ghost of a dinosaur. The brain was not the most important part of many dinosaurs, although they did quite well with what they had. Many reptiles think clearly and even ponder complex things, but their metabolism causes them to do it at a slower rate than the big-headed endothermic humans. And many of the dinosauria were opportunistic endotherms who could alter their body temperature. Today, many species do this. They can raise or lower their body temperatures as the exigencies call for just that. Nature makes the rules, and then nature makes exceptions to the rules, which is why it is somewhat iffy to make statements about an entire extinct ecosystem gone for an unthinkable period of time. But humans are very good at teasing these answers out. Whether or not the ghost of a dinosaur is present would be hard to say. We arose later than they did, and if there are necessary receptors to being sensitive to an esoteric ectoplasmic presence, we have not evolved, as far as I know, those particular receptors.
Well, we have a presentation. It's been a while since I've done something like specifically for the show.
Yes, is it about the bees this time?
No, the bees sent us divorce papers. They
They flew the coop.
oh man, and took the kids with them. It was awful. It was
Dramatic, yes.
so sad. We wept. It was bye.
Maybe they'll bring back after enough royal jelly has been consumed.
But if anybody's thinking of getting into beekeeping, they're a pain in the neck. They're and rush.
You need to cover your neck thoroughly during retrieval of honey.
We had Italian bees when we first started beekeeping, and they were just as sweet and passive as can be. Then we got Russian bees, and they're mean little suckers. They've got tempers.
Well, I was just asking in
social commentary there.
Yes, this isn't necessarily about bees, is it?
No, this one's a different thing. Joyce and I have jumped around, and we're jacks of all trades. And this is something that we got into sort of the reason we got into it got to be different. But I'll play it. But audience, we have time for more questions. So get them in now. We're coming up on the end of the show, so it's now or never. We've got a couple of questions coming in after this, but we have time for yours. So get them in now. Check the chat and you will see the link for Ko-fi at / Ask Dr. Hal. But somebody will send that out here in just a moment. But anyway, here is that little pressure point. There it is.
From ghoulies and ghosties and long-leggedy beasties and things that go boom in the night, may the good Lord deliver us. Are you there, Pressure?
Oh, I'm here.
Ah, very good. I thought maybe we're suffering.
I was blessing myself.
A silent moment.
You were praying. You were praying, and I was.
It's interesting to see your accreditations there. Let's remind our audience that if they subscribe to the Subgenius membership packet, they will receive many treasures from Subgenius headquarters, including an opportunity to become an ecumenical fellow traveler with the Universal Life Church of Modesto, California, founded by the Right Reverend Kirby J. Hensley. The significance of this is it will enable you as a subgenius to perform legitimate marriages, funerals, healings and sickenings, and all of these things may be charged for. And it's just nice to see them on the wall, isn't it?
Professor Gofflin, can I pull you in for just a sec?
Yes, of course.
Here we go. Here you are.
Yes.
I
was able to, as a Universal Life Church minister, I have actually helped some friends get married. I have officiated for them.
Yes, I was ordained in 1969, but you can still do it. It all comes in the membership packet, just a little thing to fill out and send away, and that's not all that's in that packet, but so much for
get one of these nifty buttons too.
Oh yes, all sorts of things. Perhaps there will be a future time to expound on how getting a Subgenius official membership is a step which is vertical rather than horizontal.
Yeah, if you haven't done that yet, you really need to. We don't stress that enough, that buying that package of salvation, even if you're not, the money spends the same. So, you can't take chances, think of it as an insurance policy. That, well,
don't you want to see this document in a frame up on your wall?
Right. And I mean, the Subgenius, they could be right. You never know. They absolutely could. That's that skeptic thing. We can't prove a negative. We can't say they're not right.
Mm-hmm.
They got just as much chance of being right as everybody else does.
Well, maybe not just as much.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you invest in it, it's even more valuable. So, there. Anyway, you want to get back to questions? We've got a few in the queue.
Let's do it.
All right.
Yes.
Professor Gofflin, I'll bring you back in a few minutes.
Sounds good.
All right. Let's see what I have here, Dr. Hal. I have a $15 question from AgriJag. And it is a very simple, short, and to the point question. Who will stop the rain?
Ah, that's a good one. One wonders about who may stop the rain, especially since we're likely to get a lot of it at an unexpected time, owing to the increased violence of weather weirdness. The wounded planet evidencing these symptoms in response to the pollution of the upper atmosphere by the fossil fuel industry. They always knew this was going to happen too. Well, it won't be the fossil fuel industry who will stop the rain. You can cross them off your list. It may be Gaia herself, the earth in agony, who will permanently delete rain from some parts of the land and sea, but the land principally concerns us. Of course, the other consideration here is that the rain can be excessive in and of itself. In the past, according to the Bible, manna from heaven, food generated in the sky, was dropped for the Israelites to glean as they wandered in the desert. And what a shame it would be if instead of rain falling, something like Dr. Seuss's oobleck would fall, a greenish snot-like protoplasmic substance which would coat anything. Rain is important. What I'm getting at is we shouldn't wish it to stop completely, but you can stop the effect that the rain has on you by being prepared for the eventuality that it is likely to occur.
My button was sticky.
How many times have I heard that one before?
Oh, you know, right? We could go on and on. I have two questions here, but they're from the same person. One is a $3 question, one is a $15 question, and they're both kind of semi-related. So, Dr. Hal, I'm going to give them both to you as the same, but this is so we'll call this a two-part $18 question.
Yes, that is certainly par for the course of what we do.
And so let me see. I'm going to read you the first one. And it is, hello, Dr. Hal. I've been thinking of ghetto. Ghetto.
Ghetto?
Where did that come from? I've been thinking of getting into Sasquatch ranching, getting into Sasquatch ghettoing. I think there's a huge untapped market there. Who wouldn't love an adorable little baby Sasquatch? My question is regarding Bigfoot reproduction. All the photographs I've seen of are Mr. Bigfoot. Is there a Mrs. Bigfoot? So I'll let you answer that first, and then I'll go to the part two.
All right. Well, there would have to be in order for the line to be perpetuated. We don't give the power of budding to the Sasquatch according to its legendary profile. It is considered to be just another animal, a forest animal. However, of course, it is a man-like animal, and thus, were it ever to come out of hiding, it would be considered a rival to humans, and humans have a very poor record getting along even with themselves. It is thought that Peking man, one of the human progenitors, was opposed to and inimical to the Gigantopithecus, thought by some to be the still living Yeti. These enormous humanoid apes inhabited the Tibetan region and may still do so, or through the courtesy of now vanished land bridge, the Pacific Northwest. Gigantopithecus was known to be attacked by spear group handling Peking man. But according to a book by Professor Weidenrich called Apes, Giants, and Man, Gigantopithecus itself should not be misnamed as he contends it is, and be called Giganthropus, because from an examination of the teeth of this creature, always a sure diagnostic, it appears that, according to Professor Weidenreich, the creature should be named Giant Man and not Giant Ape. Like King Kong, it would be a very man-like primate, wouldn't it? So we know that the forest man is shy, but possibly so closely related to the human that interbreeding is possible. What I'm getting at is also echoed in the early books of the Bible, where in the description of the Nephilim, the semi-divine humanoids who went in unto the daughters of men and produced offspring and aced out all the available Homo sapiens men in the area, causing much resentment. In the recent movie about Noah's Ark with a long-suffering Jennifer Connelly as Mrs. Noah, the Nephilim are shown in a strange fashion as being animated bundles of rocks, like the rock creature in Galaxy Quest. But we tend to think that they were closer to the human line than that depiction would indicate. Let's have the second part.
As it turns out, the second part was really a continuation of that question, so you did get the question in its entirety.
Well, what was the second part?
Well, the second part, let me actually go back to it. I had the next question locked and loaded for you.
I know, I'm sorry,
Oh,
but
no, you don't need to apologize.
You need to acknowledge each question as an individual entity.
So let's see. Let me go back down here. And yes, the second part of the question was, my question is regarding Bigfoot reproduction. All the photographs I've seen are of Mr. Bigfoot. Is there a Mrs. Bigfoot in the picture?
Well, what you could do is simply reduce Bigfoot to a mercantile size and increase the size of the head, because this actually has a lot to do with human evolution. Human evolution has benefited from neoteny, the passing on of juvenile characteristics into the adult during the evolutionary developmental phase. A young chimpanzee looks more like a human than an adult chimpanzee. So reduce the size of your Bigfoot doll or puppet and increase the size of the head, and perhaps to sock in the future buyers, increase the size of the eyes, make them out of glass or plastic, have them large and appealing. You know, you can even get a baby-like doll, not only of the new Baby Yoda character, but of Robot Monster, Roman itself. We have one in our Reloadio studio, just about the size of a human baby. You can dandle it on your knee if that is your proclivity. Oh, and those together are $18. So here goes with Ars Poetica by Archibald MacLeish. I hope I didn't do it last time. I can never remember which ones I do. So, a poem should be palpable and mute, like a globed fruit, dumb as old medallions to the thumb, as silent as the sleeve-worn stone of casement windows where the moss has grown. A poem should be wordless as a flight of birds. A poem should be motionless in time as the moon climbs, leaving as the moon releases twig by twig the night-entangled trees, leaving as the winter leaves memory by memory the mind. A poem should be motionless in time as the moon climbs. A poem should be equal to, not true. For all the history of grief, an empty doorway or a maple leaf, for love, the leaning grasses and two lights above the sea, a poem should not mean, but be.
Beautiful, Hal. Let me see. I have a question here. And get ready for another recitation, because this is a $24 question, Dr. Hal, from our good friend Mob Miati.
What an interesting number. Oh, yes, he's one of our fans in the Washington, D.C. area.
My neck of the woods. Interesting. So, Mob Miati's question is, hey, I'm doing the crossword, and I need a 7-letter word for Moon of Neptune named for a sea god. Starts with a P and ends with an S. Any ideas?
That would be the Neptunian moon Proteus, I believe, the sea god who was able to change his form into many different oceanic creatures. I certainly hope I'm right about that. But it's 7 letters, begins with a P, ends in an S.
A cursory Google search says you are correct, Dr. Hal.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. So here is a poem by Alfred Lord Tennyson. Tears, idle tears, I know not what they mean. Tears from the depths of some divine despair rise from the heart and gather in the eyes when looking on the happy autumn fields and thinking of the days that are no more. Fresh as a sunbeam glittering on the sail that brings our friends up from the underworld, sad as the last that reddens over one which sinks with all we love below the verge. So sad, so fresh, the days that are no more. Ah, sad and strange as in dark summer dawns the earliest pipe of half-awakened birds to dying ears, when unto dying eyes the casement slowly grows a glimmering square. So sad, so strange, the days that are no more. Dear as remembered kisses after death, and sweet as those by hopeless fancy feigned on lips that are for others, deep as love, deep as first love, and wild with all regret. O death in life, the days that are no more.
Very good, Dr. Hal. I just noticed I'm having trouble with my Microsoft Word on this machine, and I was getting ready to bring up the link for the chat.
Isn't Microsoft going to eliminate that program?
Well, this is Microsoft Word. It's their big, overblown, bloated word processor.
Right. It's not Microsoft Word Pad.
No.
Well, asking. But is it all right now?
Well, no. I'm working out another way to get that link to us. So I'm probably going to have to jump over to another machine here. So audience, stand by. We'll be getting that out to you and to the cast here in just a few minutes.
All right.
We have ways of making it work, I think.
Yes, I'm also working this problem presently.
All right. Well, let me say a poem while this is happening. Would that be acceptable?
Well, actually, no. We'll be able to do it here in the next couple of minutes. But actually, Professor Gofflin, how about if I just send it to you in an email and you can open it up, and if you'll transmit that out to both Dr. Hal and to the audience, I would be much obliged. And I'll take care of that in just about 3 minutes here.
Sounds wonderful.
But let me see. I have a $5 question here from Dr. Penny, our very good friend, Dr. Penny.
Yes.
Are whales native to planet Earth, or did they come from somewhere else?
Well, Dr. Penny, we would have to trespass on the marches or the borders of the world of legend to give the answer that whales came from an extraterrestrial source. And of course, this calls into mind the second Star Trek movie, or was it the second one? Yes, I believe it was, where the whales had to be saved by the crew of the Starship Enterprise with time travel shenanigans. But for one who is paleontologically versed, the ancestor of the whale is known, and it, like the Felidae, I unfortunately have to remind my cat worshipping friends occasionally, they who believe that cats came from outer space for their own purposes, and who knows, perhaps some of them did, but the ancestor of the whale is called the Ambulocetus, which name parses out to walking whale. It is whale-like, but it has feet and was semi-aquatic. Eventually, these feet dwindled and dwindled. And yet, in one of the most spectacular ancient whales, now no longer living, they existed as minute structures. This creature was known as the Basilosaurus. Its name suggests a reptilian origin, but that was simply because it was misclassified when it was first discovered. It is long and serpentine and twisty and has a head full of sharp teeth with a whale-like tail on the very end of it. It is extraordinarily like the many descriptions and pictures of the great sea serpent of myth, legend, and constant observation by marine travelers, which leads us to believe that the Basilosaurus may not be as gone as we think, although it is naturally, being a mammal, an air breather, and has to put its head out of the water from time to time to frighten ships and inspire sailors to seek another ration of grog. How are we doing with our technical issue?
Oh, we're perfect. You should have that link in the chat.
Oh, do I have to click on it?
Well, no, that's the link for the after show chat that you see
All right.
in
Great.
the
Yes, we do invite
Zoom
everyone
chat.
to come to the after show chat. That's an entertaining part of this whole thing, I think.
And that just appeared right in your chat area in both areas.
I'll take your word for it, and more than that, I'll check it to make sure it's there, and sure enough it is. Well, what do you know about that? Thank you.
Twitch users, please feel free to join us in our after show Zoom chat, as is our custom. We would love to see you there.
And we're all nice people. We don't yell at anybody. We treat everybody real nice.
Yes, we don't toss epithets around. This is the internet, but we make an exception.
Well, sometimes an epithet slips out.
An affectionate one, let us hope.
You know?
Indeed.
Well, in any event, let me spin the wheels here and see if there's anything else that's come in. Actually, let me bring Reverend Gofflin back in. There we go.
Spinning the wheel. I wonder if anyone besides me has received some of those right-wing messages in the mail from the desk of Pat Sajak.
Oh dear.
Has anyone gotten them?
I can't say as I have.
But it's Trump stuff all the way. But from the desk, Pat Sajak.
Is it really Pat Sajak?
His face is at the top. Who knows if anyone is really anyone?
True.
Fake news.
Or real news of fakery. Who knows?
Imagine. Let's see. I am not seeing anything new here, so I think we have gotten the last question.
Flying back from my performance tour last year, I had to spend a number of hours in the Las Vegas airport. And even though I was there at beyond 2 in the morning, I noticed two things. One of them was that at night was it Las Vegas? Yes, it was Las Vegas. At night in Las Vegas, it was 106 degrees on that day. And the other thing I noticed is that every 5 minutes, a recording of Wheel of Fortune would sound with all the sound effects and cascade through the airport to entertain people who were trying to sleep between flights.
Oh, that was probably a slot machine, because there's a Wheel of Fortune slot machine.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I bet you that's what it was.
From the desk of Pat Sajak, people have figured out this is the best way to reach the common man by echoing this insanely popular game show.
I'm a retired guy, so I know all about them slot machines. I can tell you all about them.
Well, I would never use them. Now you have to put your Visa, your bank card in, and let the tentacles of Las Vegas into your bank account. Much better to put coins in the old-fashioned way, but I didn't mean to step on your comment.
So yeah, I'm sorry. I was just commenting that I have a friend who actually does voices for slot machines.
Mm-hmm.
Does the carnival barker voice.
That's a nice thing.
Have you considered this, Dr. Hal? This is maybe a lucrative
They'd hire me. I'm available.
Absolutely.
So we've come to the end of our question queue.
We have indeed. We have we have you have your final recitation to do for the show, and then we're going to roll credits and all that stuff. So audience, stick around for the credits.
And remember that chat room, a very real thing.
Yes.
They're worth reading. And anything else before we go? Anything we want to point out to the audience? Anything we should mention? Reverend Xenofact has a zine that he is putting out there. So
yes, the Vault of Slack. So please, Reverend Xenofact,
not to be confused with the Dobbstown Mirror newspaper produced by the Reverend Canobite.
No, they're in complete competition with each other. There have been knife fights and everything.
Circulation battles.
Indeed,
they're fighting for circulation. There's only about 25 certified subgeniuses
who are literate enough to subscribe to a newspaper, but you can always increase your circulation by a sensationalism, as Charles Foster Kane knew well.
Indeed. So, Reverend Xenofact, if you are still there in the Twitch chat, please feel free to drop a link to the Vault of Slack. I really don't have that handy. I apologize.
How would you like it to come in the mail? It would, if you simply click on this link and subscribe.
And send money.
Indeed.
Well, don't forget the money. The money's very important. It's money is salvation.
Well, we know that if you pay for something, you will value it more than if it's given away for free.
Indeed.
We were talking to the guy that handles our retirement stuff, and I don't think he appreciated my comment, but I told him life is a shit sandwich, and the more bread you got, the less shit you got to eat. He didn't appreciate that comment, but it's true. Yeah. It's true. So, we don't, Anyway, on that note, folks, we'll see you next month. We've got another show coming up in February. All kinds of exciting things happening. Do
we know the date of that show?
We do. It's February the 18th.
All right.
That is correct.
Mark your calendars.
For our show, or be a figure with right angles.
And for those of you who are calendar challenged, we are the third Sunday of every month.
That's right, by cracky.
Mark that down. You can plan ahead now. Now you know the secret to how the Dr. Hal show works. Third Sunday of every month, same time.
Pretty esoteric, eh?
Only on Twitch, unless you see us a couple of days later on archive.org. So,
of course, you can download our shows at any time at www.subgenius.com, including this one after it is posted.
Is it
Yes, you can
subgenius.com?
find it at, it will be at
AskDrHal.com.
Oh, I'm sorry. Pardon me. I got that wrong. Yeah. AskDrHalShow.com. www.AskDrHalShow.com.
Reverend Stang, we hacked your website and we're now posting all the Dr. Hal shows.
Sorry, it's a Dr. Hal website now. We can't do anything about it. It's
sorry to break
My
it to you, man.
website for Burning Man has been taken over by hackers. It can happen.
Oh,
Oh no.
oh my
And
God.
someone thought it was a good idea to take control of the Burning Man fashion show website online, of which I know seem to be an admin. So ask not for who may come and swoop in and try to take your stuff away.
Oh dear.
Well, audience, thank you all for coming. Thank you for all the questions. Let me, because I'm superstitious, unlike what the video said.
Shake the jar one more
I'm
time.
going to shake the jar one more time.
Yeah, it could be there was one more last question in there.
No.
The last question.
No.
That relieves us from having to answer it.
We are indeed at the end of the show, ladies and gentlemen. So don't
But
go
not at the
away.
end of our-
Dr. Hal has another recitation that he's going to do for us and all that stuff. And stay for the credits. We actually spend time making those.
The credit that you get for watching this show.
All right, folks. Thank you. We'll see you all next month. We'll see you in the chat.
Yes, see you in the chat. Thank you, everybody.
Good night, everybody. Be sure to join us for the next all-new Ask Dr. Hal show, Home Edition, Sunday, February 18th, 2024, only on Twitch. Visit our website at AskDrHalShow.com for more information on this or to find previous episodes.
September 1st, 1939, by W.H. Auden. I sit in one of the dives on 52nd Street, uncertain and afraid as the clever hopes expire from a low, dishonest decade. Waves of anger and fear circulate over the bright and darkened lands of the earth, obsessing our private lives. The unmentionable odor of death offends the September night. Accurate scholarship can unearth the first offense from Luther unto now that has driven a culture mad, find what occurred at Linz, what huge imago made a psychopathic god. I and the public know what all school children learn. Those to whom evil is done do evil in return. Exiled Thucydides knew all that a speech can say about democracy and what dictators do. The elderly rubbish they shout to an apathetic grave, analyzed all in his book. The Enlightenment driven away, the habit-forming pain, mismanagement, and grief, we must suffer them all again. Into this neutral air where blind skyscrapers use their full height to proclaim the strength of collective man, each language pours its vain, competitive excuse. But who can live for long in a euphoric dream? Out of the mirror they stare, imperialism's face and the international wrong. Faces behind the bar cling to their average day. The lights must never go out. The music must always play. All conditions apply to make this fort assume the furniture of home, lest we should see where we are, lost in a haunted wood. Children afraid of the night, who have never been happy or good. The windiest militant trash important persons shout is not so crude as our wish. What Mad Nijinsky wrote about Diaghilev is true of the normal heart, for the error bred in the bone of each woman and each man craves what it cannot have, not universal love, but to be loved alone. From the conservative dark and into the ethical life, the dense commuters come, repeating their morning vow. I will be true to the wife. I'll concentrate more on my work. And helpless governors wake to resume their compulsory games. Who can release them now? Who can reach the deaf? Who can speak for the dumb? All I have is a voice to undo the folded lie, the romantic lie in the brain of the sensuous man in the street, and the lie of authority whose buildings grope the sky. There is no such thing as the state, and no one exists alone. Hunger allows no choice to the citizen or the police. We must love one another and die. Helpless under the night our world in stupor lies, yet dotted everywhere ironic points of light flash out wherever the just proclaim their messages. May I, composed like them of Eros and of dust, beleaguered by the same negation and despair, show an affirming flame.